How dangerous is Houston? So this is gonna be kind of a wild story time. So hi, my name is Aaron. I'm a real estate consultant. I've been here in Houston for going on close to 10 years now. So it's probably like 7 or 8 years now. And these are some of my stories of just things and wild things that have happened to me and my family here in the greater Houston area. I love the city. I love living here. I think it's somewhere that I could call a forever home. But there's definitely some wild things that happen in the city of Houston, and my stories are pretty tame. So if you are curious about kind of how dangerous the city of Houston is, maybe you're moving here from somewhere else, or you're thinking about buying, I don't know what the case is, but whatever it is, I'm going to give you some of my things that have happened to me that kind of made me be a little bit questioning of, do I really want to live in this city long term? So jumping right into it, the first thing that kind of happened to us, right? So we were moving from the energy corridor to the Midtown. So if you're not familiar with Midtown, it's like right outside of downtown area. You know, there's a lot of apartments and kind of like little businesses, but it's also like super city. So kind of going up and down the streets, you know, you can kind of see like the homelessness and all that stuff, just kind of like as you're being a part of the city. It's a super kind of affluent area, right? You know, houses in there, 4, 5, 6, $700,000 plus in the Midtown Montrose kind of area, but just all up and down the streets, you can just kind of see like homeless people and maybe people dealing with drugs and all those things, just kind of walking the streets. That's just kind of what Midtown is. And it's also a little bit of a younger crowd sometimes because it has a lot of bars and things in that area that a lot of young people go to. So that mostly young people live there. So when we first moved there, like about probably like 5 or 6 years ago, you know, we were just moving from the energy corridor, which was a little bit slower pace, traffic and going to and from work, commuting was just killing us. So we finally got into the city and we were just like, hey, we're about to have fun. And we love being in Midtown. We really loved, we had not too many issues, but this issue really threw me for a loop. So the first issue that we had was in this apartment, and it was kind of an older kind of shoddy, not shoddy, it was I would call it a luxury apartment, but it was older. And so they had things like the gates would break all the time, the elevators would kind of be down all the time, or there had like security access issues to where you didn't have to use a clicker to kind of get into a building if you could get to a certain elevator door, little sketchy things like that. And the first issue that we had was that I was going to work, and there was one day I was going to the elevator and I heard a dog like barking early in the morning, where I had never heard that before. And I'm walking to the elevator and I get there, and there was literally like a homeless guy with all of his things laying at the base of the elevator and his like pit bull. And I'm just like, dude, what the literal fuck is going on right now? Like, why am I seeing this in my apartment that I'm paying almost $2,000 a month for, to be in the Midtown and be in the mix, right? So that was like the first like shock. Now the guy was nice, he was just down on his luck. It was a cold day, cold and rainy day, and you know, just with our gates kind of always being down, you could kind of always just go into that apartment complex's garage at the bare minimum. You could always just be in there. So that was already kind of like a sketchy no feel for me and my wife, just knowing that at all times, right? And just at this particular point in time, for whatever reason, the elevator opened up near him and his dog, and he said, hey man, I'm gonna take my shot to go and get a good night's sleep in the heat today. And he did it, right? And so I just so happened to be the first person to kind of see him, and it kind of sucks that I was the guy that disturbed his sleep in that moment, right? But that really just shocked me. It was a literal homeless guy with all of his things and a pit bull. Now that story could have been way worse, right? The pit bull could have bit me. If he was a dangerous guy and he had a weapon or anything, that could have gone completely left. I just so happen to be lucky, and a lot of these stories that I'm going to tell you today, I just so happen to be blessed and fortunate that something was just kind of looking over me and I didn't have that bad of an experience. But it was still something to make me be like, I don't know if I want to live in the city of Houston like that. You know, my friends that I've helped buy houses in the suburbs, they're not having conversations like, hey, yeah, there was a homeless guy in my garage last night. There was a homeless guy in my elevator. They're not having those kind of conversations, right? And that's something that we had to witness in Midtown ourselves. Really quick, if you're enjoying the content, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm doing these kind of videos every week. See you on the other side of the video. The next thing, you know, same apartment complex. Again, that gate being broken was just kind of like our Achilles heel at that apartment complex. My wife's car was broken into a couple months after that, right? So now we're seeing a pattern, like in the city, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of kind of loitering. There's a lot of issues that you just kind of see with being in a city. And it seems to be the status quo. So it's kind of going to potentially always be that sort of vibe. And a couple months later, you know, someone else broke into our parking garage and broke into like 20 cars on our parking floor. Now, again, me and my wife were covered and favored by who knows, right? The Lord above. But for whatever reason, they were able to break into my wife's car without breaking her glass. And she luckily doesn't have anything. She doesn't keep anything in her car. She doesn't leave a purse. She doesn't leave checks or anything in her car. So they literally opened her door, saw that she had nothing, and closed the door. The other like 19 cars around us had their like doors busted. They had dings, they had windows and glass just kind of like everywhere in that garage. And so that was a super scary thing, because we were just like, dude, we just had this homeless person that literally slept on our floor with their dog, and then a couple months later you have this break-in in your car. So like at that point in time, we were really just starting to feel unsafe in the Midtown area, right? And so being in the city of Houston, with it being so populated, you kind of have to have that mindset of just kind of always being on guard and always kind of being on the swivel, just because there's so many people here, and there's such a wealth gap between the have and the have-nots, that sometimes you can present yourself as an opportunity to someone that is just doing worse off than you are at that moment. So you kind of always got to be on guard. And that was the second thing that happened in that apartment, and that actually caused us to find another apartment in a little bit nicer part of that Midtown Montrose kind of area that had a little bit more security, that was a little bit more updated. That definitely made us make that move, because at that point they were trying to raise rent, and we were just like, dude, you had a homeless guy with a pit bull, and you let our cars get broken into based off of the same gate issue that we've been telling you about for a year now, right? So definitely two things that kind of caught us off guard and made me question whether or not I still wanted to live in the city. But as a glutton for punishment, we did not leave the city, right? So we actually bought in the Independence Heights area, which is just north of the Heights, is just north of the Loop, and it's an up and coming neighborhood. We actually really like being up here. We've appreciated and value a lot, so it's definitely been a great buy. But it does not come without its challenges, right? So there's no secret that this is an area that is being gentrified at a massive rate. Houses that were, you know, once on big lots and kind of run down have now slowly been bought over the last couple years and turned into little townhome communities, kind of like the ones that we bought in. And for those that are still left, whether it be apartment complexes or houses kind of surrounding the new developments around them, you can kind of see the points of friction, right? So one of the things that occurred like literally on my street was there was a drive-by. And that's not an exaggeration. Like, we're in the house, we're sitting, having dinner, and then just out of nowhere we hear pop, 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 pop. And it's not 4th of July, it wasn't New Year's, it's not Christmas, it's none of those things where you should be hearing fireworks or firecrackers. And we're inside, and we're just like, okay, that was kind of weird to hear that, and man, that sounded really close. And so the next day, when I was going to actually take my daughter out for a walk, we just saw detectives just kind of like all up and down our street. They had things taped off, and it was just like, dude, what really happened? And one of my neighbors came in, as he was the closest neighbor to the street, and they were asking him like eyewitness kind of like account what he saw and all that stuff. And he later got in a thread and was like, yeah, there was a drive-by at the apartments down at the corner from us. And I was just like, dude, so literally on this street that we just paid X amount of $100,000 for this place that's brand new, that we were supposed to feel safe and comfortable, and it's in our little gated community. On that same street there was a drive-by within walking distance of me. Are you kidding me right now? And that was just the reality of where we bought. Now, I'm not saying that everywhere that you buy in the city is like that. I'm not even saying that even all of these gentrified locations that you could buy in your Fifth Ward, Edo, Midtown, you know, any of those places, Independence Heights, Spring Branch, any of those places that are gentrifying and kind of changing over to new developments. I'm not saying that you're going to have that experience even in any of those places, but I'm saying that in our experience, we witnessed a drive-by, or we were close to a drive-by, close enough to where our neighbor on the corner had to give a statement to the police, right? And that's too close for me. So that was definitely another one of those things where I was just like, yeah, we're gonna probably keep this thing as a rental, but we probably need to skedaddle after a year or two when we can get into a house that we really want somewhere else. All right, the next thing, like I just mentioned, we're north of the Heights proper, so we're kind of tied to their Ring app notifications. And the Heights, if you're not familiar, the Heights has houses that are, you know, 5, 6, 7, up to several $1 million in value, right? And on those Ring apps, literally every day, if you look at the Ring notifications that I get, it's just like break in here, stolen here, someone stole my converter here, someone stole my plant, someone took my dog, someone broke in, someone did this, right? Even in the area that is supposed to be safer, that's supposed to be nicer, that's supposed to be better, it sometimes can lead you to have this false sense of security that you're still not in one of the most populated cities in the US, right? And you have to always be on guard. And I know in places like the Heights, a lot of people have garage apartments that they kind of give to their tenants, and they have their cars like on the street. And so of course, if someone knows that, they can go and burglarize your car. Or if you have these plants, or you have this nice animal and you just have a low fence and you're in the Heights and you feel comfortable, of course your dog will get taken, right? Of course, you can get rims taken off of your car if you're parking this nice car on the street, right? Those kind of things you would expect. But because they're in a nicer part of town, there's also often this false sense of security. But the Ring app lets you know almost on a daily basis that, hey, you need to stop doing what y'all are doing or what y'all are assuming about the Heights or about Edo now, right? It's just one of those things. It's just a kind of like a daily reminder of how dangerous the city can be. Hey, really quick, hit that thumbs up button, hit that notification bell. I'm doing these kind of videos every week. If you're enjoying the content, it would really mean a like if you hit that comment section and hit that like button. Let's hop back into the video. The fifth thing, and one of the most dangerous things here, is like road rage. And I don't even know what it is. I would consider myself to be like a fairly calm person, but whenever I get in my car, there's like a spirit of rage that comes over me, and I don't even know where it comes from. I'm pretty chill, I'm pretty low key. I'm not really one that raises my voice often. I'm not really one that's stressed out to the max on a consistent basis. But when I get in my car, there's a certain level of tension that I have here, because people just drive really poorly. I don't know if it's just so many cars here and people are just kind of in a rush and the hustle and bustle. I don't know, but it causes you to kind of be a little bit more stressed out. And as a result of that, after you watch this video, go and Google road rage incidences in Houston. It's way too many road rage incidences in Houston that result in shots being fired or actual deaths. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's in the water. I don't know what it's in, but something here just makes people rage to another level. When I first moved here from San Antonio, and even before then I was in Louisiana, that's where I'm born and raised, Baton Rouge. And someone cuts you off, but people are a little bit nicer in Baton Rouge, right? So people cut you off and you're just like, man, I don't like how you're driving. It was kind of almost like a customary thing where you pull up on side of them and look at them and just be like, come on, man. And most times, in my experience, most people will be like, I'm sorry, man, I apologize, right? But here, I don't make eye contact with anybody here because people can be insane. Like, there's no reason why someone cutting you off in traffic should result in any way, shape, or form of being tailed to your house or having gunshots at you or anything like that. But in the city of Houston, that happens way more frequently than it needs to happen. Even a couple months ago, I think there was a little kid that got shot. He was riding home with her parent, and there was like an altercation on the road, and the kid was in the back in their like car seat and got shot and ended up dying, coming from like an Astros game, or it was like an Astros game or a Rockets game or something like that, right? And it's one of those things where that should never happen, but it happens way more than it needs to in the city of Houston, right? Hey, really quick, if you're still here, I think that means you like the content. It would really mean a lot to my business and to my channel if you could hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and help me beat that algorithm. Let's see you on the other side. The next thing is that trafficking. So animals, drugs, people, anything trafficking related, Houston is like probably like top 5, top 10 on all of those stats, right? And I think Houston is actually like the people trafficking capital of the world. So that, as someone that is kind of out and about and, you know, with my family, it's an anxiety that it kind of gives me, and I'm just being realistic and open and honest with it. I don't like when my daughter and my wife are like outside of my vision or my sight. I don't like them not with me. And it's just because you just hear about all these horror stories of so many women and children being apprehended or picked up, or they were assaulted at, you know, a store, or they were at a home goods somewhere that should be chilled, and then that was the last place they were seen. You just hear these stories kind of over and over and over, especially in the Houston area, and it just gives me a certain level of, oh my goodness, I have to be with them all the time. Now, again, we have been here going on 10 years. We have had very minimal issues. We have been covered in all of our situations and all of our scenarios, but it does not mean that the city of Houston is the safest, right? You just don't hear about, you just don't, you don't want to go on with your day assuming that everything is okay and everybody's just happy-go-lucky and everything is just peaceful here, just because there's so many people, so many different walks of life. It's a very international city. You don't know all the people coming in and going. You don't know where they're from. You don't know where their intentions are. So you kind of have to always be on the swivel. And Houston is definitely one of the biggest trafficking capitals in the world, right? And even a couple months ago, there was the Tiger King bust, right? There was a literal tiger running down one of the better neighborhoods in the city of Houston, in the Memorial area, something that you wouldn't even think about. There's a tiger literally running down the street, right? And it's just, Houston can be a wild place. Houston is going Houston at all times, and Houston can be a wild place. So you kind of always have to be on guard. And then overall, kind of like I was talking about, just crime stats. So for aggressive, you know, we're talking murders, we're talking assaults, we're talking batteries. Houston is just up there. And if I've gotten to the point where I don't like to personally watch the news anymore, just because it stresses me out. I've deleted or unfollowed all of those like news carriers on Instagram and Facebook and all those, just because I know a lot of that is just to get clicks. But if you go into a lot of these stories and you just actually read the stories, man, it will really stress you the hell out. And it stresses me out as someone that has a certain level of anxiety when things I can't control are just kind of happening around me. It just stresses me out, right? So overall, do I love the city of Houston? Yes. Does it have great possibility of places I will call home? I call it home. I've bought here. I plan on buying here again. I don't plan on moving away, but it doesn't change the fact that how dangerous the city like actually is. The city of Houston can be extremely dangerous, and you have to kind of always have your wits in about you, and you have to always be on the swivel. And there's some areas that are better than others, but I don't want you to believe that the suburbs are all perfect, because they have their own things. And I don't want you to believe that the city is Gotham City and we're just out here, you know, just waiting on vigilantes to do whatever they want to do, right? But there is a certain level of alertness that you have to have no matter where you are in the city and the surrounding suburbs. So that's the video for the day. If you have any questions at all, feel free to shoot me a text, hit me with an email, call, whatever's easiest for you. Hit my websites, hit my social media, whatever way is most convenient for you to get in touch with me. I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope you have an amazing week.